What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today when I talk to you about NIO, I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So this upcoming week, there's going to be a lot of different things that can move NIO, some of which isn't Chinese related, it is American. So of course, through algorithmic trading, that's how it would really move NIO. But as far as coming from China, there really isn't all that much in data. Coming from the States, we do have the interest rate decision. So that is coming out Wednesday. So potentially NIO could move higher because of that. And I think it is fair to assume that we will be getting a 25 basis point cut for the upcoming October 29th meeting. So that would be a pretty good catalyst. Again, that would really help NIO kind of move higher. Aside from that though, one thing that's been somewhat looming over the broader market for a while now, last 2.5, 3 weeks, is Trump and the States going back and forth for various things, but they are meeting on the 31st. So that could be a good catalyst. And in my opinion, might be unpopular opinion, but I feel like there is going to be either a deal that is made because of that, or potentially we have the tariffs that are set to kind of commence on November the 1st, which Trump has made it very clear that is going to be going through. That's going to either be pushed back or either a deal is going to be made. Regardless, market's going to take that as a very, very extreme positive. So in my opinion, that could really push NIO higher, because if you think about it, NIO at that stage was hitting 52-week highs. Then you had this whole back and forth start, and that really just killed the momentum very, very fast. Not just with NIO, but it did occur kind of across the board. So in my opinion, once that does get rectified, you could see a very nice push higher. We do have specific to NIO, we have the registration number, so that always causes some volatility. We do also have on November the 1st, which is unfortunately a Saturday, but that's where NIO will be putting out their monthly numbers for October. So I don't know if that's going to prompt any new analyst ratings, because when they put out the September numbers, didn't do anything whatsoever. So I don't know if, let's say, this month's numbers is going to really prompt any analyst ratings, but generally that does move the stock price. So the registration numbers as well as the monthly numbers, that's going to really move NIO. And then last but not least, we do have a hell of a lot of big companies putting out their earnings. So again, even though a lot of this doesn't really directly correlate with NIO, indirectly it's going to get moved through algorithmic trading, and we've seen that happen time and time again. So we have a lot of big names: SoFi, Meta, Amazon, like Apple, many big names. So this is going to really push either the broader market higher or start to prompt a lot of fear in the market. Aside from that, looking at shorts, so going into this upcoming week, 10.66% of the free float is being shorted. That works out to be 147.5 million shares overall being shorted. So you can kind of see on Friday, it does show shorts returned about 13 or almost 14 million shares. Why that is showing as that is because 2 times per month, the actual exchanges do provide the true amount of shares being shorted. It's always delayed. So they did report as of October the 14th, there was a 154.34 million shares overall being shorted. So then what Ortex and a lot of other platforms do is they take that number and calculate it up to the present day. So ultimately, between September the 29th and September the 14th, roughly around about 14 million shares more than what we thought were returned. So if you kind of go back over here for a second, so during that time frame, NIO really did break down. And so during that time frame, shorts did actually return about almost 14 million shares more than what we thought. A lot of which was done through the dark pool. And that's kind of the whole purpose of the dark pool, is just to stay anonymous. So it's very difficult for a lot of places to really track those types of transactions. But it really does show how much Trump and that whole back and forth really did kill NIO's momentum, because it shows that a lot of institutions did sell off during that time frame from the end of September up until October the 14th. So going into this upcoming week, anticipate shorts to be fairly active as per usual. But as far as the options, so you can kind of see that there is a certain level of optimism for it to be roughly around that $7 range by the end of this upcoming week. So Friday, Bears are anticipating for it to be sub, kind of between that 7 and 750. So I found this rather interesting. So even the Bears are anticipating for it to be above 7. So that's kind of a good thing, at least some level of optimism going into this upcoming week. Looking at the open interest, so with it closing exactly at 690, that does mean that the 650 and below strike prices are considered in the money, and you don't really see anything significant. So you have 12,000 at that 6, and then 6,000 at the 650. So you're not going to see any gamma squeeze or push higher because of that. Looking forward into this upcoming week though, you do already have 20,000 at that 7. So potentially that's where shorts might wake up a little bit just to try to artificially suppress it below 7. So anticipate a lot of volatility around that range, and even just generally going into this upcoming week. As I've mentioned for pretty much the last week and a half, $7. That's going to be that key point to really get over. Normally what does happen is every time you have a stock that's really bouncing off of a key resistance level and really failing to get above it, usually does result in significant consolidation. But NIO honestly seems very stubborn. Even though Thursday and Friday were rather kind of quiet, boring days, it still was stubborn and it wanted to really break above 7. So in my opinion, either Monday and Tuesday, those are also going to be days that NIO does really test that amount. And I would say logically, if we do fail to get above it by, let's say, Tuesday, including their registration numbers, then most likely you're going to see a certain level of consolidation. So don't be surprised if that does happen, but hopefully we do have a good push higher and it stays above that. Then in theory, 783 would be that next strong target / resistance. So just kind of take a mental note. I'll show you this on a side note. So this is the 4-hour chart. So for those of you that want to day trade, dollar cost average, or whatever else, so it is going into this upcoming week between this R1 and the pivot. So 675 will be a strong support, followed by 639. So just kind of keep that into consideration. Aside from all of that though, looking on the actual chart, it was able to successfully close above this 10-day moving average. So it shows that there's a little bit of optimism, and you can kind of see as well, Wednesday through Friday, that was all the case as well. So NIO does really want to move higher. It just needs that nice little push. And this is something I've often enough brought up on videos, is that there hasn't really been all that much in news, speculative articles associated to NIO. It's been largely at the mercy of the broader market, which of course in most cases hasn't really been that great, with exception of Friday. So in my opinion, I think the technicals look cautiously optimistic for it to really move higher. Stochastic RSI very oversold, so a good piece of news, you could really see a nice push higher. But even looking at the market position right over here, so you can kind of see that there is a lot more willing buyers as of Friday. So definitely good to see. You have a lot of strong walls, a lot of willing sellers up until around that 712, and if NIO is able to get above that, then you could see a nice push higher to arguably around that 750 to even like that 760 range. So I think NIO just needs that nice gentle push, but there's a hell of a lot of big catalysts this upcoming week that could really push NIO higher. So let me know your thoughts on NIO. Are you buying? Are you selling? Where do you see things going for this upcoming week? Or do you see us consolidating? What's your kind of general thoughts? If NIO for whatever reason does really break down to, let's say, that mid to low 6s, this is where I'll start to start selling puts again on it. So I've already explained puts on what to do, so I recommend researching that if you don't know options, because I do that on a lot of stocks that I don't mind owning. So you just sell a put, you get to keep the premium regardless, and if the stock price dips below your strike price, then you buy it at the price that you want. So it's kind of advantageous. It's a win-win for long-term investors. So definitely consider doing that. Take the time to research that. And then one final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. I put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades. Worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.